Because it took people, that took me like 10 minutes to argue for them to let me do that without things. It was just the messed up. Yes. No. So yeah, it doesn't take a lot of work.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first panel after lunch. Hope everyone had a nice break. I'll introduce myself briefly. I'm Ian Taylor. I run Crypto UK. We are the UK's trade body, representing a whole host of market participants, both in central finance and DeFi, and our main objective is to advocate for fair and balanced policy. We'll just do some brief intros. I'm very pleased to welcome an illustrious panel here of experts from the industry. So first, let me start with Ignacy Mas. If you just tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
So I've been working in financial inclusion for the last 15 years with the Gates Foundation, with the World Bank, and before with Vodafone.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Alex Fernandez, please.
Oh, yes, well, I'm the CEO of a Spanish company, BitBase. We name ourselves as, we have a phygital exchange. We have more than 25 stores and 60 ATMs. And in our stores, our different point is that people can come and buy or sell any cryptocurrency or any crypto product with an expert that will help them out.
Thank you. I just saw our fourth panelist running by, so we'll hopefully get mic'd up in time. And our third panelist, please, is Amos Mehdi.
Yeah, I created one of the first protocol on top of Bitcoin called Colored Coins 2012, was the basics for Ethereum and some other protocols afterwards. And now I run a fund called Node Capital, where we invest in different decentralized protocols.
Thank you. And whilst our fourth panelist, Gustavo, gets mic'd up, he's coming, I'm getting indicated. Perhaps I'll just set the scene briefly around the topic of this panel, democratization of finance. And so generally what we're going to attempt to do during our 30 minutes is dive into some of the really interesting societal benefits I personally believe that crypto and the underlying technology, blockchain, and specifically, specifically DeFi and new areas of crypto are allowing access to wealth, for example, financial literacy, wealth generation, cross-border payments, remittances. So these are some of the areas that we'll touch on today, but thank you. You've made it in the nick of time, please.
I made it. So sorry, but.
That's okay, that's okay. Please, can you just give a brief introduction of yourself and what you're working on?
Sure, I'm Gustavo Segovia, in protocol community lead in gooddollar.org. We're basically a universal basic income protocol, cryptocurrency, which is actually a cryptocurrency backed by real value. So by money but DeFi money somehow. And we integrate with different DeFi protocols, so we can bring our supporters, people that are like intrinsically motivated to support a universal basic income economy, just to dedicate part of the portfolio, not for us, like just for putting in some contracts that will be generating yields out of that. And the yields will be shared with the universal basic income economy as such.
Well, thank you very much.
Basically what we do there, yeah.
All right, well, let's get started with our first question, which I'll pose initially to Ignacy. In your vast experience working to support financial inclusion in developing countries, for example, can you talk about the advent of public blockchains and the innovation taking place in trustless peer-to-peer payment systems, possibly supercharging the efforts you and other practitioners are passionate about?
Yeah, my work has been indeed in financial inclusion and across Africa and South Asia. And the reality is most people there have no access to formal financial services. And why? Well, it's fairly simple. I mean, financial inclusion almost by definition means serving these people up to banks, and banks have no interest in serving them. So you get this catch-22 situation that we think they should have banks, but banks, they don't think that they should have them. That is the reality. I'm really cutting to the chase here. But why do we think that's a good thing? Financial services for poor people? Well, we're not talking just about poor people. It's poor people with very volatile income. You just have no idea when or where your next dollar is going to come from. It's uncertainty that is the key issue. So in that context, obviously, you need to prepare for the next big payment, which might be paying school fees for your children. I need to be able to set money aside when I have a little bit of extra to prepare for that. If I don't get there with my own savings, I need to have access to credit to complement so my children can stay at school. And when the money has been put together, I need someone to be making that payment because the school is distant, it's not convenient for me to go there and so on. So this issue of the banks not really wanting them as customers happens mostly because they just don't have the right products for them. It's a product development shortfall that makes what banks offer to them not relevant, because most bank products are thought through for people with stable incomes who can budget. And so you can have fixed rules. You can commit to yourself and to the bank certain things. That doesn't happen with poor people. Every dollar has to be flexibility money when you need it and discipline money when you don't. Every dollar, not just a barbell portfolio of pension funds and liquid accounts. That doesn't work. You cannot separate your money like that. So just going to the bulk of the core of your question, the main problem I have as a professional working in this area is that all I can do is plead with banks to please develop products for them. Please try this thing. Please set up this infrastructure in those communities. And it's very hard. So I consider myself a salesman into banks, trying to get them to deliver the right products. And what we need is much more open innovation around financial services for poor people. And to me, the blockchain offers that possibility. If I have a clever idea of a product for a poor family, well, I just put it into some wallet and I put it in on the cloud, on Google Play. And that's it. That's the extent of what I need to do from a product development point of view. That still has a marketing challenge associated with it, but it's freeing product development from the tight hold, the tight grip of the banks. That I think would be the main advantage of going more, allowing blockchain-based solutions for product innovation.
Let me bring a couple of perhaps discussion points to the rest of the panel. Out of the UK, Cambridge University conducts some research into the use cases of Bitcoin, for example. And we see in the West, the main use case of Bitcoin as an alternative investment class. But however, in say Central and South America and Asia, the more developing countries, we see Bitcoin used for what it was designed for, a trustless peer-to-peer payments network, which is actually revolutionary. Because as you touched on, the banks, there's no appetite for them to solve for micropayments. And there are other projects that are even better at providing cross-border remittance payments. And then the second point is around stable coins being used by people not to buy coffees in society. And as the audience know, there's a lot of regulatory discussions, both in the UK and in Europe and in the States. And what we're seeing is actually stablecoins are not being used by people in the British economy, but actually by suppliers or even by employees to pay their staff. One could assume payroll is normally weekly, monthly, because the old infrastructure only allows that. But you could get paid by the second. I think that could really solve some of these living pay to paycheck, living by pay, what I'm trying to say, paycheck to paycheck. So does anybody want to build on that? You have any views?
Yeah, you mean about like streaming of salaries?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience? Do you pay your staff?
Yeah, we're actually investing in a protocol that's doing something in that area, which is great because once you're streaming the salaries, you're able to do many things. If the salary is on chain, then imagine like how banks started, right? It's like salaries and people started like onboarding more and more people. So having a protocol that's kind of like collecting a lot of salaries from people and everything happen on chain, once it's happening on the blockchain, then you can provide through the month even, right? Like not even waiting for the paycheck to get in, like many financial services. So it's like creating way better yield on the assets, as well as creating new products that you couldn't do before. So
thank you.
If I may, in my personal experience, I see a lot of financial services willing to expand, to grow in terms of users and audience and so on. But there are not many financial inclusive services. You were talking about Bitcoin before. Bitcoin per se is not an inclusive currency. I mean, it may be more inclusive than fiat, but still, I mean, for people to acquire Bitcoin, they need to put their sweat of their front head. They need to work, they need to put their money, and they need to be able to expose themselves to the risks behind that. If you're talking this to someone in El Salvador or to someone in Indonesia or something like that, where their only worry is about having a bag of rice so they can feed their children, what you're talking about, me putting me a Lightning network platform so I can do peer-to-peer transactions with Bitcoin. No, I actually need somehow of people to help me to be part of that financial systems and to build products and services or token or ecosystems that incentivize these foreign partners and stakeholders to support these kind of people that is actually in need. And not only that, not only to support them to bring on board into the financial system, but also to enable them to become part of that. So how, if I start like receiving these dollars, these Bitcoins, this whatever, there are financial services around that will help these people to grow in wealth from themselves. And there is a need a lot of education. There is not only about infrastructure, but education.
You mentioned El Salvador. Now they've made Bitcoin legal tender. Now I'm sure our panel have some views on that. I have my own personal views, but we're not going to get into that now. But that's an interesting sandbox to see how that plays out. Gustavo, I'm going to come to you next because you've got a really cool T-shirt on that says, what does it say?
Defy the status quo. Yeah, because Good Dollar is actually a DeFi product. We are DeFi before DeFi was actually a thing. I think that at least what I can say is that the DeFi system is lacking of a purpose, in the sense that the only purpose of DeFi is growing money, growing yields, more money, more yields, more yields, more money, more money, more yields. But what the heck are these people doing with those numbers that are growing into the magic internet of cryptocurrencies and scarce crypto assets and so on? We really need to engage somehow into the productive economy and to enable this kind of products and services that we see in DeFi, which are amazing. I mean, it's amazing tech, what we can do with new forms of money and composable money. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. But we need to introduce a better purpose behind that. We are looking for the inclusion purpose behind that. One of our themes is we want to bring on board the next billion people into the digital financial system, into sovereign money, into sovereign financial. So people will actually be able to care about themselves instead of, I don't know, depending on a Venezuelan government that knows nothing about monetary policy. So they control the money machine and they print a lot of money, and then the world, I mean, the person that suffered that the most is actually the people that has nothing, right? So there's a lot of work to do with the space, but yeah.
Thank you. Well, let's touched on DeFi there. We have our next question to Amos regarding the great work that he's been doing in DeFi and been involved in the space for a number of years. And as founder of Node Capital, which is a cryptocurrency fund backing the builders of the new distributed economy, could you perhaps discuss why and even how the new generation of retail investors can generate wealth outside of traditional financial markets, and why that's a good thing or even a bad thing?
Yeah, so like very quickly about DeFi in general. Also, if we had like the financial system where you needed to go to a bank to get some kind of a service, if it's a loan or anything else that you needed to do. So this is kind of like what we know for back in the days. And then there was another layer which we called fintech, right? Fintech took those services, very basic services, and kind of like created a new UI, UX for that experience. So we're able to kind of like connect, but you still had, they call it like peer-to-peer economy, but it's not really peer-to-peer because you still have someone in the middle connecting between those two in a marketplace, right? So DeFi kind of like removing that middleman and really connects through a protocol, math, and smart contract, those two players to together create some kind of a financial service. So it could be anything from providing liquidity and basically replacing liquidity providers in the world to different protocols through automatic market makers. Or, for example, just taking a very quick loan from a protocol, from a pool of money sitting under a smart contract. So basically, as we remove more barriers, remove more third parties, remove more friction, the easier it is for people to start invest in those protocols and provide access to anyone on the planet who just need a private key to download an app. He doesn't need a specific bank or a specific service and to wait for that service to come and service him in his country. So that's why it's so revolutionary and interesting.
And in traditional markets, there's always a barrier to entry. In the UK, for example, a high risk investment, you have to, one, have experience, two, already have a significant amount of wealth to participate. And so this reduction of the friction, anyone can get involved. All you need, internet connection and a laptop.
Exactly.
Simple as that. Yeah. And so what we're seeing, and this is one of the things we talk to the government about, is one of the societal benefits is the education piece. People are learning, all ages, all demographics across the world, what finance is. What does money mean? What is interest? You know, how can I get involved? And I think that's, you know, something to the topic of the panel, because I'm in finance, is a really, really interesting use case of people getting involved in learning things. You know, computer scientists would not have necessarily known about economic game theory, but are getting involved in these topics. And I find that fascinating. All right, let's now move to Alex, who is CEO and founder at BitBase, which is a marketplace for buying and selling crypto assets, both digitally and in physical space, based across Spain, and hopefully expanding outside of Spain soon. Can you tell us, Alex, a little bit about your client base, the demographic, and perhaps further expand on some of these issues we talked around about access to finance and education?
Yes. So in the end, what we are making in our offices is we have an expert that knows about blockchain, about crypto, about DeFi, and our major client is the non-user. So he's the person that has heard, because or in the radio, in the news, something about cryptocurrency. That is what we've been doing since 2017. One thing I want to note is that the client has changed. So in 2017, the person that entered, it was mainly because the price of Bitcoin, he's heard about it, and he had a friend that told him he had to buy. That was our first clients. Like nowadays, and we are all around Spain, we can see different users, like maybe a 50-year-old or 60-year-old who has really done a deep investigation about maybe a certain coin, and he just needs some help, maybe to how he can connect his MetaMask, how he can start to do staking, how he can use or find this certain coin, where he can get this white paper, asking maybe to explain us how this smart contract works. So the level of education has really gone up for the last years. Also, I really think that about maybe 90% of the population, at least in Spain, are still not in this market. Now they've heard about it, but they're not still in it. With that, now we are used to it. I'd like that we try to think first time that we heard about crypto, that we made this first investment, or how we first started there. That was a difficult part. Nowadays we have much more information. So we help the non-user to get there. so that he can understand. We avoid maybe those Telegram groups that tell you that's going to be rich in a few days. We explain them the importance of having a cold wallet and why, and all this education. And what we see is that all the people, all our clients that have been entering this world for sure since 2017, majority have had real good profits. Because think about that, we not have the traders. We just get the clients that believe in that, so they buy and hold. One thing that I've seen that it's pretty cool, those clients get the environment to take them and to explain. So this is obviously not red that we say that. So the same client that has earned money has brought other people. One of the problems, or I see, is that they only bring them normally because of the earning money thing. That was what you were talking about. So people are still going into cryptocurrency only because of the promise that they're going to have more wealth than they had before they entered.
Well, that's one of the challenges of policymakers, isn't it? And I don't want to bore the audience too much with regulation because this isn't the topic of this panel. But we do see in the UK a lot of advertising on the buses and on the tubes promising great returns. And that is driving adoption. And we have members, trading exchanges, Binance, Crypto.com, eToro, Coinbase are all the big brands that you know, and their businesses have absolutely rocketed in terms of their client base and their revenues from trading. Have you seen the adoption on your platform increase significantly in the last year or so?
A lot, really.
Okay.
I mean, we said, oh, you've done a good job. We've done a good job, but the market for sure has helped us out a lot. So imagine since 2017, the quantity of users that they are and what we are talking about now. Now what we see is people that want to enter the NFTs, that want to get more, they have so much products to enter that is what they're finding their place into this industry. So that's what we like. But I still think that there is a lot to do for the non-user, that now we have the very thinking in a long-term view. We have still only the specific, like, this is just starting. So all the other people that have to enter don't have to know, or they will not know how it works or to understand it, but that doesn't mean they're going to still use their technology.
So let me bring back a question on DeFi. Perhaps I'll start with Amos first and then Gustavo. So we've seen some recent incidents. Index was hacked, and 16. This is a DeFi protocol. $60 million was taken out of this profile by a very smart coder in Canada. And the protocol asked for the money back, and he said, no, this is a failure in your security systems. And they basically outed this individual in the public domain. So there'll be some sort of prosecution action. Now, I saw some panels yesterday where code is law versus the rule of law and the infrastructure of law that we've had for many decades. Mm-hmm. What's your view on these two issues? Can DeFi be regulated, number one? And should it be? And if so, what areas can be, or in your view, should be?
I think it should be regulated, but in a very different way than how regulation works today. So you talked about people kind of like, breaking into smart contracts and code is law. I believe that's where we should go, but we're still not there, right? So the infrastructure just started. We're very, very new. So of course there will be people kind of like breaking into different smart contracts. But today you're starting to have an infrastructure that's protecting those protocols. One example is also like a protocol we invested in called Forta, which are the guys at Open Zeppelin. They've done like so many audits in the world, in the traditional world, and now developing basically a cybersecurity protocol that just alerts on things before they're going to happen. So I think we're just in the beginning of all of that. And it's good that we're kind of like checking the legal side of that in terms of like, is it law, is it not? Like, is this hacker, should he go to jail? Mm-hmm. Or he just, found something and he got used. So those are a very, very good question that I think we will deal with less and less as the infrastructure kind of like improve in terms of the protocols they're supposed to protect those smart contracts.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. And the way I think about it is, okay, I walk into a bank, the security camera switched off and somebody forgot to close the vault. Oh, look, there's a bar of gold. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Is that a crime? Well, clearly it is. So this is the same idea. And yeah, I know Try to Bits do good smart contract code audits, and we are seeing development in this space. Perhaps that's something that we as the industry body could advocate for people in DeFi. There are better risk warnings on websites, better audits, et cetera, et cetera. So over to you, Gustavo. What's your sort of view on this?
And definitely favor on regulation, but on self-regulation. I mean, we're talking about protocols that regulate themselves. It's not that someone wants to come and regulate Bitcoin. No, there is a protocol, there is a consensus of regulation on how you issue and distribute a currency there. So the regulation is there, is on code. The regulation fails as every kind of regulation. If we're talking about physical jurisdiction regulations, they not always take the best decisions. It's the same when you are writing down a smart contract. You maybe are leaving some bugs behind that you are not realizing. So your contract that will attract and aggregate a lot of liquidity will be suddenly, boom, hacked and money disappear. But even so, that is a good thing because the ecosystem is learning from itself. They are realizing, oh, okay, if we do this kind of contract, no one realized that it was actually hackable, but look, there was this vulnerability in this function that maybe we will need to fix, and they evolve from that. It's like trying to regulate the wild west. How do you regulate about a bunch of bandits with arms and stuff? Well, you start to prepare yourself. You maybe train your people, maybe put more security on your banks after the first robberies and stuff. And it's the same. Ethereum and every kind of DeFi blockchain is in that space right now in understanding itself, what it is, what are their capabilities, what are their vulnerabilities. But I don't believe in having a government to come to regulate a protocol and so on, basically because of the fact that I see in Ethereum and in few other blockchains, sovereign jurisdiction per se. Ethereum is a sovereign digital country somehow, because you're able to build your own rules and to enforce your own rules within that. We're talking about sovereignty in digital systems. So bringing other entities to regulate that is like, dude, what are you doing?
Ignacio, you have some thoughts on this based on your experience in traditional finance?
Yeah, in the context of financial inclusion, in addition to the safety and soundness points that you're making, which I would agree with, there's the consumer protection aspects, which is the fit between the customer and the products being offered, how it's sold, how much understanding they have, the risk. So I think there's a huge demand for consumer protection. And the question is, how do you make that compatible with innovation? That's really the issue, so that we can do products that are more tailored to their needs. Now, I think the answer is right there. The more the product fits into their daily lives, the easier it is for them to understand, the less need for consumer protection, or the more effective it can be. And for me, from a product development point of view, which is what I've been emphasizing so far in this talk, it's because crypto, for me, offers the possibility of making financial products feel much more with what people are used to, which is informal products. If I want to save today, I can. I just put money under the mattress in a jar, in a locked box. I give it to a friend to keep it for me. So we have this self-help approaches. And I think crypto allows the design of solutions that feel much more self-help rather than big bank imposing conditions on me. So, you know, if I have a way of managing my money, it's an agreement between me and my app. It has nothing to do with an institution like the bank. So the more we make financial products feel more like what they're doing today, more intuitive, the less consumer protection risks, and therefore the more relaxed you can be on the regulation side.
Thank you. And
just to close on that, I think it's a little bit on regulate on the proxies. What are the interjections between the digital economy and the traditional economy? How can I protect my citizens? How I can inform them on what they are doing? Once that you are doing to that realm, this is not government responsibility. You look for yourself. It's about that. It's about empowering people from
that. It's not only about giving their money so they can do stuff, but also giving them the information about what are the best ways to
Yeah.
deal with their finances.
Thank you to the panel, and I see the clock is running down. So just a brief summary. Hopefully we've covered off the main societal benefits that crypto brings, which is access to finance for all, democratization of finance. But we need to be mindful of some of those risks: high risk investments, people losing their shirt, meme coins getting pumped, and then people the rug being pulled out from under the floor. So these are issues that the industry is dealing with. But all that remains is me to thank our illustrious panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.